Again, Erev Shabbos, everybody. Welcome to Jerry's Parsha Pondering / Corona Contemplations for Parshat Emor. We are still in Corona land, although things are, thank God, improving. Things are winding down, and we are hopefully and permanently, hopefully, over the top on this thing. So let's take a look at the Parsha in light of current events, or rather, current events in light of the Parsha. Parshat Emor, of course, begins with Emor al Kohanim b'nei Aharon, the Kedusha of the Kohanim. And it's very interesting that Parshat Emor comes on the heels of Parshat Kedoshim, which talks about Kedoshim Tihiyu, the whole idea of how Am Yisrael is to be holy, to conduct themselves in a holy way. And then the Torah goes right on in to talk about the Kedusha of the Kohanim, and Lo Nefesh Lo Yitama Ba'amav, and the different restrictions put on a Kohen, who he can marry, who he can't marry, and of course all the consequences thereof, as we saw in past Parshiot, Ushmini, Achrei Mot, what happened to Nadav and Avihu, and so on and so forth. But the message of the juxtaposition of Parshat Emor to Parshat Kedoshim is again the whole concept of holiness, that Am Yisrael are the Kohanim of the world. We, the Jews, the Jewish people, are, if we want to use the term chosen, the whole idea of being chosen. What does it mean to be chosen? It means we're better than other people? Of course not. It's not an issue of being better. All people are created in God's image. All are God's children. But Hashem took Avraham Avinu and his progeny and says, I want you to be my representatives, the Kohanim of the world. Mamlechet Kohanim V'Gai Kadosh. And that brings with it a tremendous responsibility. So, if we're looking at how things have developed since the beginning of coronavirus, we have to really look at some of the results from our actions. We have to be an example to the world on how to behave. And when we don't behave as we should, we will see at the end of Parshat Bechukotai next week, and at the end of Sefer Vayikra, Leviticus, the Sefer that talks about holiness in general, that things could end quite poorly if we don't live up to our mission of being the Mamlechet Kohanim V'Gai Kadosh. This whole period of the coronavirus, of COVID-19, has taught us that when we don't do what we should do, the world is watching. And I've hit this point over the past few weeks, and I can't really stress it enough. There have been some tremendous concentrations of the virus in areas where where the frum people live, whether it's Brooklyn, whether it's Lakewood, whether it's Bnei Brak in Mea Shearim in Yerushalayim. There was tremendous death, tremendous loss of life, because people did not listen to the medical professionals. And they go around claiming, oh, Torah is Megan Umatzle, the Torah protects, and we have to listen to our great rabbis. And we see it didn't work that way. It didn't work that way before World War II either, when people said, oh yeah, don't worry, this Hitler guy is going to go away, just stay put, and not to leave, not to go to Eretz Yisrael. And what happened? And what happened? And the same, thank God, in a much lesser, to a much lesser extent, but the damage has been done in the eyes of the world and in the eyes of the Jews. In our own eyes. So what are we saying? That the Torah doesn't protect and the Torah doesn't save us? Limud Torah is in and of itself its reward. The mitzvot are in and of themselves their own reward. We don't believe in magic, and we don't believe in witch doctors, and we don't believe that our Torah scholars are to be treated as saints and that they're infallible, and we don't go to Torah scholars for medical advice any more than we go to medical professionals to help explain a stira in the Rambam. That's not how this works. And I would certainly hope that after this very, very costly lesson, that people are going to get that through their heads. I don't know if they will, because people have had this stuff drilled into their heads from the beginning that, no, you don't have to serve in the IDF. You could just sit and learn, and that's your contribution to protecting Am Yisrael. No, it's not. And we're going to see very soon that, and something I'll bring up very shortly, that even in the case of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, that wasn't the case. Because we're going to talk a little bit about Sfirat HaOmer. Jumping around and screaming and expecting that to save you. That's nothing short of Avodah Zarah. That's idol worship. That's not how this works. Is there anything wrong with davening with fervor and enjoying a davening and enjoying singing Hallel and enjoying a beautiful Carlebach Kabbalah Shabbos? Of course there's nothing wrong with it. But it's for us. It's to help raise us, our level of spirituality. When people say we're going to storm the heavens with our prayers and that's going to change God's mind, kaviyachol, that if you believe that, then you have a pretty awful view of who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. That's not how God works. God put a system into the world, and when we work according to that system, things will work out well for us. As Rav Avigdor Miller Rav Avigdor Miller Zechat Tzadik Kodesh Levracha. No, I'm not Chabad, where Rav Miller is concerned. But no, as Rav Miller Zatzal said, the Torah is the owner's manual for the world. For best results, use only as directed. Yeah, of course, if you live in the Torah lifestyle, you're going to have a good life, right? But that doesn't mean that the whole science and nature system is going to change. It doesn't. That's how Hashem put the world. That's the mechanism by which the world functions. As Rav Miller Zatzal said also, science should be taught with the Torah subjects, because science is how Hashem runs the world, right? It's not the other way around. So let us learn from Parshat Emor and Kedoshim, right, how we should behave as Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. Let us not take our Torah lifestyle and turn it into a Chilul Hashem when it should really be a Kiddush Hashem. Later on in the Parsha, we learn about the Chagim, the Moadim, Moadei Hashem Mikrai Kodesh. Right? How beautiful are how beautiful are our holidays, and how they are supposed to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what the Moadim are. They're time for us to spend in contemplation of Hashem, of His world, of everything He gives to us. And we find ourselves right now in Sfirat HaOmer. Sfirat HaOmer. What was Sfirat HaOmer? Let me tell you what Sfirat HaOmer is not. Sfirat HaOmer is not an excuse to sell a cappella albums. That's not what it is. That's what it's turned into, unfortunately. But no, that's not what Sfirat HaOmer is. The Sfirat HaOmer is the counting from Yetziat Mitzrayim to Kabbalat HaTorah. And we brought the Omer offering. The Omer offering was the new grain. And it was a time for us to appreciate all the good that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us. The new grain, our sustenance comes from Hashem, the fruit of the land, and really thanking Hashem for all the good He does for us in terms of our parnasa and our lives and our families. Let me tell you again what it was not and what it is not. It's not a time to mourn. How this happened is one of the most unbelievable things that I find in Yiddishkeit. The story of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, that they perished between whatever it was, Pesach and Lag BaOmer, or Rosh Chodesh Nisan and Shavuos, and what? Read history. What happened to the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva? And I don't know if there were 24,000. He had a big base medrash. The Gemara likes to exaggerate, and that's okay, because when you study Gemara, Baruch Hashem, I've gone through Shas a couple of times. Daf Yomi. I'm not any great Torah scholar, but you realize that the Gemara likes to exaggerate, and that's okay. It's part of the literary style of the Gemara. But this Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died in the Bar Kokhba rebellion. That's what actually happened, and it happened over a period of 2+ years. Right, 2.5 years approximately, 132 to 134, something like that. Don't quote me on the dates. But that's what happened. It was a very difficult time. Think about it. It was 60 years after the first rebellion against Rome, which resulted in the destruction of the Second Temple. And at that time, Yerushalayim was still, not everybody was thrown out after the Churban Bayesheni, and then there was another rebellion with Bar Kokhba. Keeping in mind that there was a group that thought that Jesus was the Messiah. They were called the Christians. And then there was a group that thought Bar Kokhba was the Messiah. They were called something else. The Bar Kokhba faithful. I don't know. But Rabbi Akiva, mistakenly so, hey, guess what? Talmidei Chachamim sometimes make mistakes. He thought Bar Kokhba was Mashiach. So basically, Rabbi Akiva was one of the first Chabadnikim, and I'm not going to go there. And his Talmidim, of course, if they were his students, followed Rabbi Akiva. So they were the soldiers in the Bar Kokhba rebellion. Guess what they didn't do? They didn't sit and learn the whole time. They actually went out to war against the Romans. Isn't that interesting? So the whole story is no one talks about that because it wasn't Toradic to be in the armed forces. So they came up with the story that they didn't behave nicely to one another. Come on, the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, some of the greatest Torah scholars ever, they didn't have proper respect for one another. So they say it's because they took the Torah. It's not even nice to say some of these things. They were soldiers. They died in battle valiantly, fighting against an oppressive regime. That's what happened. And it happened over a I don't even know how the whole thing happened with Sfirat HaOmer. But Sfirat HaOmer is one of the happiest times in the Jewish calendar, and it should be a joyous time where we're counting up from the Geula, the redemption in Mitzrayim, to Shavuot, which is Kabbalat HaTorah. It used to annoy me also that I remember as a kid, hearing people count Sfira, making the bracha of al Sfirat, Asher Kedeshenu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al Sfirat HaOmer, that people would do it in this mournful tone. Asher Kedeshenu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al Sfirat HaOmer, like it's a funeral dirge. Baruch Hashem, here, our neighbors, we sing the Hineni Muchanam Zuman, and the Minagay Odam Mizrach is to sing the bracha. This is a happy time, people. This isn't a mournful time, and some of this stuff needs to get Control-Alt-Deleted, do a reboot on some of these things, but let's think about the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva were valiant warrior scholars, the prototype of what a frum Jew should be, and they fought against an oppressive regime to try to free Am Yisrael. It wasn't meant at the time, and they were unsuccessful, and they died as warriors. But realize that Sfira is not an excuse to sell a cappella albums, because the a cappella music is not as happy as Led Zeppelin. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I had to say. Excuse the rant, but this is something that's always been bothering me. But one thing I have to add in, when the Torah goes into the whole story, or rather the whole part in Emor of the Moadim, it starts with Moadei Hashem Mikroi Kodesh Elahei Moadai Sheshet Yamim Taseh Malacho V'Yom HaShvi Shabbat. Before we even talk about Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Sfiras Omer, we start with Shabbos, right? Because that is, of all the Moadim, the most important thing is Shabbat. And when a Moed and Shabbat fall out together, the laws of Shabbat take precedence, because Shabbat hi makar ha-bracha. Shabbos is the source of all blessing, because when we keep Shabbos, we are on the team. And what do we not do on Shabbos? We don't roll. As Walter tells us in The Big Lebowski, we don't roll on Shabbos. And again, actually, maybe the bowling alleys are back open, but don't roll on Shabbos. Stay home. Light candles, make Kiddush, enjoy a meal with your family, speak with your families, put the damn phones down. And again, do one more thing this week. At Shabtotai Tishmaru Umikdashi Tirau, Zacharat Yom HaShabbat Lakadsho, have an absolutely wonderful, safe, and enjoyable Shabbos. Come on back next week when we talk about Bahar B'chu Kosai. Some interesting stuff coming. Have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom.